WandaVision, you're weird, but I like you.
We are an unusual couple, you know.
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
Hi, I'm Phil. Welcome to my channel where I talk about all the geeky pop culture that I like and consume, including things like Doctor Who, Star Trek, and the MCU. And today, I'm kicking off my review series of WandaVision. The first 2 episodes dropped, well, today as I'm recording this, but it's, nearly 10 o'clock at night. I probably won't edit it till tomorrow. So let's say yesterday they dropped. And I've watched them, and I'm here to give my views. I'll be starting with a spoiler-free little summary of my thoughts, and then I will go into a section where I will talk about spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, you will know when to stop watching. And if you want more MCU content from me, I've just released a video a couple of days ago ranking every TV series which takes place in the MCU which we've had before this. So all of your Agents of S.W.O.R.D, your Netflix shows, your Runaways, even your Inhumans, all ranked in that video, so do go check that out after you've watched this one. Shall we crack on? My basic summary, I really liked it. I really did. I thought they did something new and exciting with the MCU here, something that broke the mold of what we have had established in the MCU before. The MCU movies have been in various genres, but they've all kind of had a tone to them, a feeling to them, and this breaks away from that, and I like it. It does something completely different, and I'm intrigued at how long it will go down that road for until inevitably we will get the whiplash back into the sort of usual MCU world, as they come out of this sort of world that they're in, or whatever they are in, and back into something we recognise more fully. I'm intrigued how long that will last. I hope they don't do it too quickly. I would like to see a lot more of this. I kind of hope it's a season finale thing and we get fully as much into this world as we can up until then. The trailer quite clearly established that this show will be mimicking various sitcom eras of America's past. We start in very black and white, sort of 1950s era. I think they are moving now into the 60s/70s era for the next episode, episode 3. What I like about this is that it's just so quirky and weird, and this whole show is just so quirky and weird, and I love that sort of stuff. I'm a big fan of things like David Lynch and TV shows like Wayward Pines and Twin Peaks from David Lynch. And, those kind of shows that set up this really quirky mystery, have these really unique way of telling it and unique styles and unique filming styles. And this, I think, certainly in places, actually really feels like there are moments in this episode where it feels like a David Lynch episode, almost. And I'll go into that a bit more in the spoiler section. But on the surface, they are very much episodes of sitcoms from that era, and it was a big nostalgic hit because I used to watch reruns of things like Bewitched on the telly when I was a young'un, and it's just nice it was a kind of a nostalgia hit at the same time. But also tied in with these characters which we know, and have these unusual abilities which we know about, and we know that they've got a backstory that then they're kind of hidden even from themselves. It's just a really intriguing setup. It's really well done. I think it's brilliantly filmed. I love the fact that they use all of the tropes from the era. And actually, the stories themselves, the sitcom stories themselves, the sitcom plots are actually quite amusing and funny themselves, even independently of all the MCU elements. They are quite funny shows. And Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen do a fantastic job here. Their comedy timing is great. They're both, within their MCU roles so far, they're both very serious characters. And they've both had the opportunity here to let their comedy muscles flex and give us some brilliant stuff. They've got great timing, great comic timing, and I'm looking forward to seeing some more of it. We also got some nice little hints at the wider picture as well. of what might be going on, some little snippets, not much in these first 2 episodes, but they're there starting to sow those seeds, and I'm sure we'll get some more going forward as well. So I'm intrigued by the mystery. I'm loving what we're getting from them in the sitcom element, and I think this is going to be a great show. And I really love that they're breaking the mold of the MCU here and doing something just different, just giving us something a bit different. It's great. So with all that said, let's move on to spoilers. I'm covering both episode 1 and episode 2 in this because they both dropped in on the same day. Episode 1, the basic sort of sitcom plot is that the boss is coming around for dinner. Vision's boss from his workplace is coming around for dinner. A good old staple of old-fashioned sitcoms is the boss coming around for dinner plot. And it's, there's lots of laughs there. There's we get a bit of Vision in his workplace, which is played for laughs as well, where, there's him being super fast and efficient at his job because, of course, he's a robot. It's all very funny. There's lots of Easter eggs scattered throughout these episodes, and little references to things, some of which are quite under the radar, some of which are much more over the radar. I love, for instance, the moment where the table plate smashes against Vision's head, and there's a reference to him having an indestructible head. Well, we all know he doesn't really have an indestructible head, because Thanos quite literally destroyed his head, ripped the stone right out of it. There's nice little references like that which might pass you by if you don't notice them first of all. And then there's other things like there seems to be this running thing of an advert going through the episode. So there's an advert in both of these episodes. The first one in episode 1 references Stark Industries. The second one in episode 2 has an advert for a watch which has the brand name Strucker. Strucker, of course, was the Hydra commander who was experimenting on the twins, Wanda and her brother, when we first met them. So these nice little references are peppered throughout these 2 episodes. The guest cast is also really good as well. Some of his work colleagues, some of Vision's work colleagues play into both of the episodes, and they're nice. We get the next door neighbour as well, who I think there's possibly going to be more to her, certainly from what we've seen in the trailers. But at the moment, she's kind of the overbearing neighbour. His work colleagues, as I said, are amusing and provide a laugh there. Everyone does a really good job of playing up to the tropes of the sitcom genre that they are in at the time, but also giving us a little bit more. There was one moment in the first episode where it deviates from this style, though, deviates from the sitcom style. It's where the boss is round for dinner and he starts to choke, and suddenly everything changes. The framing changes, it kind of goes into a slight Dutch angle on the tilt. The music changes into a much more darker, sinister music. The laugh track completely cuts out. We get a sort of ticking in the background as well. And then you get the wife, by the way, played by the mum from that 70s show. Love seeing her again. And yeah, she has this kind of weird maniacal laugh. And the way it's framed, the way it's filmed, everything. This is the moment which I was referring to as feeling very David Lynchian. And I love it. It just kind of jars so much with the rest of the episode that it feels really significant. You know it's significant, and it just makes you feel very uneasy, which is obviously what they were going for. And then, of course, we get the very end, the tease. Somebody is watching these and making notes. Watching these on a computer screen with computers around them, making notes in a very high-tech looking setup, as if they were watching a TV episode. Who is that? Where are they from? Who are they? We only get a few cute clues. We see a logo, which pops up again in episode 2. And it sort of starts setting up that full mystery of like, something's not right here. I mean, we obviously know something's not right, but it starts to thread those little breadcrumbs. Episode 2, we get another funny sitcom plot of them staging a magic show to raise money for the kids for this town event. We get introduced to Emma Caulfield's character, Anya from Buffy, is in this, and playing the town queen bee, as it were, who rules the roost of who gets what in the town and who's popular and blah, 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 blah. But she is brilliant in this, very funny and slightly creepy. And we get a brilliant magic show because one point earlier on in the episode, Vision is given some gum by his friends at the neighborhood watch, and he eats it, but because he doesn't usually eat, and in typical sitcom fashion, goes wrong. He eats it, he swallows it, and it cogs up the gears inside of him. Literally, we see a little animation of the gears, and it results in him kind of acting drunk, basically, because his gears are all slowed down. So, cut to the magic show later, and him and Wanda are performing this magic show for the community, and he's acting drunk. Again, great comic timing by Paul Bettany there, and starts, actually using his powers, starts levitating, picks up a massive piano, and it's up to Wanda to cover for him and use her magic, her powers, to sort of turn things around and make it look like, oh, it was a trick after all. So the piano, she turns into a cardboard cutout and then turns it on its side and goes and the audience see it's a cardboard cutout, but it wasn't to start with. And Vision himself, when he starts floating, she does a little twist of her fingers, and suddenly he's actually revealed that he's on a pulley rope. So she's sort of covering for him there. It's a very funny scene, and again, it's just a fun sitcom situational comedy element that actually works by itself. It's very funny. In this episode, the world starts to break down even more than the first episode, because we get sort of a voice coming through a radio saying, who's doing this to you, Wanda? Who is that voice? It kind of sounds a little bit to me like Captain America, but I'm not sure. It might just be a generic person. We get this helicopter that appears in a hedge that is in colour. And not just any colours, but very much Iron Man colours, I thought. The red and gold that is the type on the Iron Man armours. Don't know if that's significant. But what I'm sure is significant is the logo that was on the tail of it, which is a little sword through a circle, which, if you don't know, comics fans might, it's the logo of the organisation S.W.O.R.D, which is kind of an outer space version, or protecting against aliens, whereas S.H.I.E.L.D. is about Earth-based things, S.W.O.R.D is more space-based things. And are they the ones that have captured her? Are they helping her or trying to help her? Who knows, but they are definitely something to do with this plot. The mystery thickens. We also get an intrusion into the world by some kind of guy in either a hazmat or beekeeper type suit. There's certainly some kind of insects flying around him. So who is that? What has that person got to do? Are they from S.W.O.R.D? So there's a lot more things that start to break into this sitcom world than there were in the first episode. We got very small hints of it in the first episode. A few more in this episode. I suspect we'll get even more in the third episode. I do hope, though, as I said earlier, that they don't break away from the sitcom format and break too much into the real world too soon. I think they've got some legs to run with this quirky world with just moments of surrealness thrown in there. I think there's a lot of time to run with that, and I'm looking forward to where it goes. I suspect we'll probably... My theory so far is that this is not being done to her, but it's her dealing with her emotions about Vision's death. And she has put herself into this world, and people outside are trying to deal with that and break in and get through to her. That's what I think is going to happen, but that's just my theory. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below if you've got any theories about what's going on so far. Love to hear them. And then, of course, at the very end, the world changes. It's no longer black and white. Wanda's energy sweeps over the place. She's pregnant, and they're in colour. We move on to the 70s, maybe, in terms of eras. I said earlier that the first two were black and white, but I don't think they're the same era of black and white. They do have subtle differences, including the opening sort of credits were very different to each other. The second one, very much a Bewitched style with the animation and thing. So I think they're probably two different eras. We've probably got a sort of 1950s and 1960s black and white era here. And then I reckon we're moving into colour with the 1970s next episode. So overall, I just thought that was a brilliant start to the series, and I'm very much looking forward to the third episode next week. Let me know your thoughts on this. Did you watch it? Did you enjoy it? Let me know in the comments below, and I will be back for another review next week. See you then.